This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agins, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to cede whatever seconds at the beginning to thank Kyle, because Kyle just did something for me which I love. He gave me a glimpse into like a whole world that I had absolutely no awareness of, and I'm incredibly curious. And I want to applaud you for getting up and doing that for us. So thank you. My world is really, really boring. I am the uncool to the cool. So what do I do? So Business of Healthcare produces interviews with healthcare executives and innovators. This particular interview, the gentleman on the far right is a practicing cardiovascular surgeon in St. Louis. He also runs a clinically integrated network. He's responsible for the quality of care for 200,000 lives. Sorry, you're left. No, you're right. I got it right the first time. Okay. His name's David Theodore. The other guy on there is Blake Margraf. Blake is an entrepreneur. He's got a company called ePharmix. It's currently producing about $2 million a year in revenue. Blake is the customer in this interview. The gist of the interview is bringing together this innovator with the decision maker who would be his buyer. In this particular case, Dr. Theodoro is not a customer. The interview is not an infomercial. We're not there to pitch Blake's product. We're there to dig into the business problem that Blake's product solves and that Dr. Theodoro is accountable for solving. I'm the other guy. So for an underwriter, what's their return on investment? Well, the way this works is we have an editorial board who makes the decision about the innovations that we want to focus on. Now, by way of background, I've spent 25 years in the healthcare industry. I've worked within a health system where I was responsible for taking innovation from bench to market. I've also worked for corporations like Thomson Reuters, where I was responsible for building new revenue streams off of healthcare data assets. In all the work that I've done, I've brought a lot of innovations to market. I've funded good ones and I've funded disasters. But the observation that I always had was that there's two really, really big problems for the innovator. The first big problem is getting to that end customer. Early in the stage of an innovation that can be really compelling, it's incredibly difficult to get the attention of these senior executives. The second problem is validating that that innovation is really legitimate. And that's essentially what we do. So our editorial board picks the innovations and underwriters that we focus on. We record the interviews, and then we distribute the interviews to our audience. We've produced 22 interviews that have already been distributed. We started in 2016. Our first interview was published January of 2017. Each of these interviews represents an innovation which we validated with the potential buying customer and proven to have an incremental effect on the healthcare industry. Now, how many here work in the healthcare industry by raise of hand? Okay. How many here use the healthcare industry? Raise your hand. Of those of you who use the healthcare industry, how many of you feel that the healthcare industry is broken? Raise your hand. Okay. So I've tried to solve an enormous number of infrastructure problems. Turns out there is absolutely no big hammer that will smash into healthcare and fix it. It is small, incremental innovations that shift the incentives and shift the workflow and change the experience. So what we said was, hey, healthcare, $3.6 trillion industry. Turns out there's only 100,000 decision makers. How do I know that? Well, we went through the US healthcare delivery system and we looked at the delivery side and the buy side and the sell side. So buy side is health systems, physician practices, long-term care, home health agencies, and so forth. If you look across those entities, there's only about 40,000 senior executives that represent the decision makers of all the major entities in each of those segments. Similarly, on the sell side, the payer side, Medicare, private insurance, large employers, only about 58,000 decision makers represent the preponderance of the buying decision within healthcare. So we're building an audience of those decision makers. Currently, we've got 19% of them. This is our team. Nat, team member here, is kind enough to join us today. I'm going to jump ahead. These are our customers. And I'll just hit one more slide and shut up. Results to date, our 2017 revenue was $200,000. We published 22 interviews. Our goal in 2018 is to get to about $500,000 in revenue, and ultimately we're looking for about $400,000 of investment to continue the scaling.
Care if I go first again? I'm just gonna jump it. Thank you. You've intrigued me. One thing I'd like to point out is you always, when you're pitching an idea, which you're very fluid and very good presenter, no problems. You connected with the audience right off the bat, but you have to know you had 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
I totally blew the time.
This
Totally
is
blew it.
Yeah, and it was nice of you to thank Kyle, but that you blasted out 20% of your time with that, and but whatever. Yeah, but it's just there's some meat in here, that we'd all like to see. But I would just like to make that comment, and it's I think that you're smart, you're experienced, you pick right up on that. I think you knew it. Yeah. The other thing is, I do always go back to basics. Like, I don't quite understand who the customer is, and in this, there's a lot of constituencies, and it cold, but I don't, and I'm sort of a simpleton, but you really got to go to that audience, and so if I think I understand it, you're trying to create this network of is sort of interested decision makers. And the way you're getting their interest is by producing these interviews. But are the companies that they ultimately will be your customer because they want access to them. But in the meantime, do you charge them for that interview? Like, who pays for the interview? And then do you provide them with that interview so they can email it out to people, or are you doing that? Or it just wasn't clear.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate your comment about time. I did a terrible job of it. Let me just answer the question. So this is some of our interviews. For each of these interviews, there's an underwriter.
Okay.
They are welcome to bring a thought leader to the interview. They are paying for the interview.
Okay.
The way the pricing model works is they pay a fixed cost to get the interview done. And then our accountability in a performance base is to generate at least 10 warm introductions to their target audience.
Great, makes perfect sense.
So I liked the way that you described the problem is bringing innovations to healthcare executives. So we validate, we basically go out, we screen all the innovations that are going out,
Yep.
and we help validate that by not only showcasing the innovation, but a paying customer. I think when you take that and then you couple it with, we already have 19% of all the decision makers on the other side of our platform, I'd say that's the lead, don't bury that. So it's really quick, gets me to understand okay, we go produce content that helps key executives who are time constrained get access and validate new innovations that they can then put into their pipeline. And we already have 20%. I think that's kind of the lead that I would go to. I think I don't understand I don't think we got into the revenue model. So I guess that's the question. I know who's involved. I don't know how you make money off of it. And the other thing that threw me off was, oh, sorry. Is this good? Is that better?
Yeah.
There we go. The other thing as I was looking at your financial model and comparing it to the other things, so you've already got 19% of the decision makers on there, and you make about $200,000 of revenue, and in 2021 you get to 9 million, let's say, right? So there's something inherent in that says we're going to charge more, we're going to get greater revenue, because we've only got 80% left of the market to go, or maybe there's other monetization streams that I'm unaware of. But I'd say, like, when I look at how many people are already using it, first of all, like, the $3.6 trillion market size is, like, I know that's sexy to throw out trillion, but, like, immediately I'm like, that's not the market. That's like the industry, if you will. So my biggest concern is I'm not sure it's a venture fundable model. If you already have 19% of people on here and you're making 200K and 40 years from now you're at 9 million of revenue with 30% EBITDA margins, I'd be concerned about the underwriting of that from a venture investor perspective. But I think you get really quick to this is the problem, what we do, and we already have a lot of the people on here, so there's interest. I think you got to get quick to how you monetize the platform a little bit faster.
Yep, fair enough. Can I just respond to that?
Totally.
So the core business model, we don't necessarily make money off of the audience. We make money because the audience is present, but they don't pay us.
Okay.
We make money off of the underwriter who's funding the episodes, which generates the content. And then hopefully we produce a lead for them. We also now have a large content library which we own and we can repurpose in a variety of ways, such as syndication.
Gotcha.
Why getting to 20% of the market and it isn't blowing the doors off? Well, in 1 year we got from about 2,000 of those decision makers to about 19,000. So we're in the growth curve of the audience. We're just starting the growth curve of the underwriters. We proved that we could sell it 6 times and do it profitably. Now I need to prove that we can scale the number of underwritten episodes. But your point is well taken. I did a lousy job articulating that. And I also set up the question in your mind because I put the teaser up there, but I didn't give you enough information to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Gotcha. Cool.
What does an underwriter pay?
The average episode is currently earning about 30,000. About 20,000 of that is a fixed cost to make it happen, and then an average of about 10,000 is incentive based. So $30,000 investment. The underwriter walks away with the reuse of their content, so they can go put it on their website. The interview guests put it on their LinkedIn page, all those sorts of things. They get the introductions that have occurred, and they also get, what's interesting is the most valuable thing they get is usually pivots to their business model. We've discovered ways for them to increase revenue or connect with the customer in a different way. One of the interviews ends with the decision maker saying, you just earned yourself a customer if you can do that. And that's like, we did it.
Well, yeah, I was curious. Has any deal been done out of this?
Yeah.
So you have?
Yeah.
Oh, I pitched that.
I got five out of my 6 customers are great references, very delighted. One of them was a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd send that front and center, man, because I mean that's ultimately the end game to get people engaged in this, right?
Give them their ROI.
And then, how do you source your innovation?
Yeah, so it starts off with the editorial board spots the areas. So right now, one of the most important innovations in healthcare is direct-to-provider contracting, where a large employer contracts directly with a health system and pulls the broker and the third-party administrator out. There's about 20% cost savings you can achieve if you do that. That innovation, a lot of people are talking about. It's incredibly hard to do it. So one of the topics on the editorial board is find an organization that sort of figured that out, and let's do a series on that, because that is probably going to affect 3 to 4% overall in our healthcare delivery cost. So we start off with the innovation. I then go looking for the underwriter. Hey, do you want to tell this story? Do you have this story? Would you pay for this story? Please pay for this story. And then eventually, once we get that, then we find a conference to record it out, and it all pops together.
And then my last question is, what are you going to do with your $400,000 to scale? What's going to be useful?
Yeah, so in 2018,
is it right there, the capital?
yeah, we have a website, need to enhance it. We have a curation process, and poor Nat would really like us to enhance it because it's painful right now. There's a lot of automation we can do. There's a digital publishing, kind of all the connect the tweets to the LinkedIn to the content. We want to build a booth that we show up at trade shows at, so we record the interviews at the trade show in a very visible way but soundproofed. And then we need about 200,000 to get through that cycle, because we'll be losing money at that point. We'll go negative. and then we'll pop back positive in 2019.
Got one quick one from the audience.
He actually answered.
Okay, great, great.
Got another
Any
minute.
questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm done.
Well, we're done as well as.
Sir.
We're done as well.
And I apologize, you're in healthcare. I don't mean to offend you with the
Yeah.
broken thing.
If he has a question,
Yeah.
I actually, I thought the presentation was really good as far as presentation, and if you that first 20%, you get the accolades, you probably would have got through all your slides. But I really liked actually what came out in the Q&A about the story. You had a customer, I would always start with a story. Last month we did this, they paid this, come and interview.
This is what happened.
Expert gave great feedback, and I made a client, and then we gave you 10 questions. What their owners is, this is not all you can do, and say, now we see money to
Yeah.
20 more of these,
That's great advice. I like that idea a lot. And that ePharmix, that was the guy that got that story. So that would be a perfect place to start. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you all.